would be talking on the phone when my husband would enter into the home, but I wasn't aware that that was an offense to him. And so I wasn't aware how he was perceiving it. And so I would acknowledge him by smiling or waving and then remain on the phone. And so in those instances, it would cause and I know that it happened at least twice over the years, but once, either this year, I think it was, or December of 2020. And I was on the phone with my brother, and I put him on speaker, and my husband began, he walked in and began to address the children, and he got upset. But in the past, I've seen where um, my parents and my siblings have sought his side out. They have sought um, his interpretation of our separation, his interpretation of our argument, our fight, our physical fight. And at first I felt like that was what a counselor would do, hear both sides. Little did I know it was their tactic to hear from him so that they wouldn't do anything. They would hear us out, but when I'm saying that he is doing something infringing on my peace or in the home, or my sense of safety more so, and I feel terrorized, and it doesn't move you, then then that also is telling. It's telling when your family members um, are wanting to get involved. And I've actually been dragged out of my home, and I was wondering, so no one in this complex was able to witness that, even though people see, they it is also their choice to not get involved. It is also their choice to not call the police. It is also their choice to avoid um talking with you any further. It is also their choice that if they are going to continue to talk to you, to to desire to want to hear about something um of that nature, of abuse that they haven't seen you or heard that you're involved in. It is their choice. And I've always expected my parents and siblings to authorize themselves to get involved and impress upon him the same terror that he's terrorizing me with, to threaten him the same way he's threatening me, to get in this home and tell him, at least over the phone, just keep your hands to yourself. Just keep your mouth silent. Just keep from the name calling. Just keep from locking people out. Try to solve your issues within the home. Um, but no. Now we're in a different state. Now we're in a different state, and the state is considered, in my opinion, I have shared with you in the past, but I'm sharing with you now. Um, we're in comparison, in a healthier state, in a healthier state. Um, and although I did, mm, hopefully did have bitterness, but I also don't live with my parents and my siblings. So hopefully when I do see them or pick up the phone, that or if I were to talk about these same topics with my parents or my siblings, um, about being there for someone, about caring, about support, about encouragement, about protection, then I won't reflect that I'm still hurt, but reflect that I've healed. And then understand that these are human beings too. My, I'm expecting for my parents to protect me um, and literally get involved, literally stand in between, literally tell him, "How dare you?" I remember going to my father and asking him and telling him, "Hey, I hope you told my husband, like, hope you don't be putting your hands on my daughter. Keep your hands to yourself." And he was like, "How dare you?" He was like, "How dare you tell me what it is to be a father?" And I felt muted by that. I felt like muffed in the face, and I was just like, you know what? Of course he feels respected because he feels like what he's doing by allowing us to figure it out. And I'm laughing, but he felt as long as we he felt by whatever he was doing was the right thing. And that's why he took offense to me suggesting that he do something otherwise. But still, taking offense is also a reflection of your immaturity and me poking at an area where you're not willing to maneuver. So that's that's on that. Me asking my siblings to literally drive over to my house and tell him, "Open up this door. You're acting as though this is only your home, as if she doesn't pay bills, as if even if I don't, help me to understand how you can lord yourself the sole authority over a home in which you share with your wife. So is she your wife or she's not? Is she your slave or she's like, help me to understand how another woman, because my how you can live with your spouse and then and how it's okay to lock them out to where they can't get in for hours. I've slept outside before. I've asked a homeless person, "Can I borrow your phone so I can go sleep at my parents' house?" I snuck in there and I stayed there in Garland. So um but also, am I confident that if the tables were turned, if any of my siblings were going through a domestic um violent or abusive or consistent, just episodes after episode, if I would leave where I was and intervene, leave where I was, leave my home, go to their home, and not just settle that situation, but suggest some help, impress upon that, and just put some standards and some boundaries. No, I don't feel comfortable y'all coming to, and just I don't feel comfortable with you babysitting my daughter. I don't feel comfortable with you coming to the just corralling family members to galvanize in the form of a meeting and say, "Hey, did you hear about that situation that your sibling or your child was experiencing in their home?" um it is our duty. They don't need to have to call the police. What can we do? What can we tell him? No, you cannot. This is not a punching bag. Our blood family is not a punching bag. And yes, even though you guys are married, we honor you guys' marriage. However, you are differentiating from the from yourself as the spouse. You're not behaving like a spouse. We can't see you as one when you are abusing your half, your better half. So um I expected that, but that also requires so much courage. Courage is also doing things fearfully, doing it anyway. Requires you recognizing that there's something fearful and doing it anyway. Doing it anyway. So no one was courageous, and I'm just trying to figure out what is it that they had to justify in their mind to continue to be comfortable enough to still ask me about if I'm coming to their birthdays, if I'm um, gonna come to their wedding. Like, the last time you talked to me, I was telling you that I was being terrorized by my husband, and you're just, I just found that fascinating. But also me too. What then am I allowing people to impress upon me and just dismiss my calling, my outcry, my begging, and my pleading? I no longer go back and forth. and I no longer block people that didn't help me. I entered into sitting down and praying for each person I felt hurt and abandoned by. I can't be more pained, and I can't be more angry at them than I was at him. Now that I've forgiven him, and he and I actually are at the beginning of working on one accord, because I still find myself in situations that are um, triggering, that I haven't healed in, wanting to respond a different way, but he doesn't act the same way. So now I just look overzealous. Now I'm um, responding out of character. So I'm not responding like a Christian. I'm not even thinking like a Christian. I'll prejudge his movements, his actions, and his thoughts, which don't allow him to respond accordingly. It just doesn't give. I don't even give him the chance to say anything. I'll go ahead and say, I know what you're thinking. And I do him and myself a disservice of allowing the person to um, bless that moment. But as far as forgiving my parents, I think that was to a degree self-righteous, and also to a degree mature. Forgive them for the ignorance that they did not have. Forgive myself also for expecting them to have been aware of what to do in a situation that requires knowledge. Excuse me, that requires courage. Um, I did feel like a cattle being sold when I was married. I did share with them that there was physical, emotional abuse before we got married, and but my father told me that there are 7 to 1 man all over the world, and so I need to understand that if someone asks me to marry, then I should really consider the likelihood of me getting married in the future. And so I just felt like that had nothing to do with what I had just shared with him, and that was in front of my mom. Then my mom came to my room privately and shared with me a dream that she had had, and how she wasn't really able to remember the dream, but she did narrate some part of it, and she shared with me what she took from the dream. She felt that I was going to leave someone that I knew and go and marry someone else, and that brought her so down in her spirit. She was really concerned, and so she felt like that had something to do with why I had come to them, which was the physical uh, just the physical fight. My fiance at the time had called and told them. He called and told them that the engagement was up. I was like, oh, I didn't know. I know we fought, but I didn't know that that was it, or whatever. So they had sat me down and told me what they had um, heard from him. But I was actually trying to tell them that there was a fight, and and it seemed as though we were having just a parallel conversation. And so and they both had interests. They both had goals that it appeared to me that they had goals that were going to be fulfilled through me, through this marriage. I didn't have an arranged marriage, but that's essentially but I didn't tell them that I was actually in a relationship at the time that I got proposed to. um I just told them that the the ring that I've been walking around with, that I've been trying to give back, but because he and I have been wrestling, that I still have it. And just out of my um, not so much ignorance, but I was at a different level of understanding. Um, yeah, that is just ignorant. I'm just not aware of what people will do and how much they'll pursue people that that have allowance and compliance and naivety as their character that are just yes, I do feel like the amount of ignorance that I displayed was attractive to a person like that. The amount of ignorance and unfamiliarity and um, accommodating and just compliant. He would say something, I'd say no, and he'd be like, "Well, if then," and he would put his foot down, and I didn't want that issue. I didn't want issues. Then that was the spinal cord of the relationship, and I was just like, this bothers me. And so I was trying to cooperate with him in leaving, but he was just like, that's not going to happen. I can't cooperate with you in trying to leave me. So that was a conversation between he and I, but between my parents, I would share other things with them that were also going on. Not often, but it didn't happen like maybe just two times. And I was just like, that's enough for me. And they were like, well, and they literally steered the conversation another direction. And as of now, they still wouldn't have the capability to understand what I do and what I don't do with my children. But I give all accolade to them, how they behaved at that time that I was getting married. All glory and honor be unto God, because it is because of that I don't do certain things with my children, and I do certain things. I listen to them emotionally. I factor in what they are saying into my decision. And I also don't put my decision into things that involve them. It's not fully my decision. I include them. I ask them. And I don't patronize them. I hear them and I follow through based off of what they are saying. And a lot of people can't move forward in hearing and listening very well because they haven't been heard in the past. And so they're still back there stuck. And I'm not going to be the point of where my children are stuck. I'm not going to shackle them because of how I mute them, how I patronize, how I'm behaving like I'm hearing them, but I'm not going to behave as though I heard them. I'm not going to account for what the information that they're sharing with me. So I don't do that while I'm rearing my children. And the things that my parents did rearing me, many of that stopped with me. I am not passing it down. And I'm thankful for what they did and what they did not do. And I did want to block, and I did. I blocked both my parents on my phone. And that was just a reflection of what I was trying not to work on, but now I do. Now that they're unblocked, I've unblocked siblings as well, so that they can reach out to me if they choose to, about mustard, about a laptop, about how I'm doing. And through therapy, through the community of people that care about my well-being, and through a marriage that actually does care about my well-being now, he has the capability to hear me with patience and to respond, not thinking that it's taking away from him his manlyhood, his power in the home, but he's able to care, and it doesn't take away from him now. And so to have someone like that in your corner now, or at any time, is therapeutic. And so I'm now, with unblocking my family members, I ask how they're doing, and I am prepared to hear how they protect their ideals, their stands, and why they didn't come to my help, or how they feel like they did come to. We answered all your phone calls. Yes, we laughed and we felt like you were exaggerating. Yes, we felt like you were lying. They needed to. That's what keeps you in your home and not helping or avenging for me. That's what they needed. And that's what I needed as well, because God is my avenger. God fights for me. God does things to the second and the third generation, but I really wanted them to come through. And some family members can, but there was such a dependence and a reliance and a loyalty that I wanted to invest in them that it just didn't, nothing, not a thing, not a thing. And I'm not gonna say not a thing. They did answer my calls and they would hear me out. But it really frustrated me for someone to hear exactly what I'm saying and be like, oh man, well, what are you doing that's contributing or adding to the problem? Then don't make it mad and don't yell, and um, be more respectful. And these are things I tried in the beginning, but I soon came to understand that it ain't on me. He has a lack of self control. He has this and he has that, and um, now I am able to hear them. I'm actually able to care about them without spite and hurt, and still feeling like, well, you didn't do this for me. Um, I'm the same way that the disciples scattered when the soldiers came in the middle of the night with Judas to arrest Jesus. Um, is how I felt. But in the same way that Joseph was thrown in that ditch and just shocked that he just got sold by his brothers. That's how I felt. I felt like they're seeing me, but they're neglecting me. It's not like they did not know. But the same way that Jesus made fish and bread, and all the disciples ate from him, the first, it was either the first or the second time that he made himself visible after he ascended into heaven. So for Jesus to still make himself present and to care for their physical needs is forgiveness. In the same way Joseph wept when he saw his brothers. Yes, it was a reunion, but when he embraced them, that was an indication that he had forgiven them long before, and he wasn't walking around with all that bitterness. That wasn't there, but what was there was a desire to be one with them again, to be among them and them be among him without any reservations, clear-minded and just unified as brothers again. And